Hey guys, we are on day 147 in our Bible reading plan, and today we're reading in the book of 1 Chronicles. We're reading chapters 26 through 29 and Psalm 127. So chapter 26, we read the divisions of the gatekeepers. We read about David setting up overseers of the treasuries of the house of God and dedicated gifts to the Lord. And then in chapter 27, we're going to be reading about the number of people that are the heads of Israel and their fathers' houses, that are commanders of thousands and hundreds, and the officers who serve the king. We're going to read about the leaders of all the tribes of Israel and the overseers and stewards of the king's treasuries. And then in chapter 28, we're going to read David's charge to Israel. He's going to tell them that God has chosen Solomon to be king and to build the house of the Lord. And then David's going to give a charge to Solomon himself. He's going to give to Solomon the detailed plan for the building of the temple of the Lord. And then in chapter 29, David is going to enlist the help and the favor of all of the people to support his son Solomon and to give willingly to supply for the house of the Lord. And they do. Everyone who is willing and able gives to support and supply for the building of the house of God, for the temple. And then David prays a prayer of thanksgiving, a prayer of blessing over his people and over the people of Israel for what they have done and given toward the building of the temple. And then they anoint Solomon king. We read of David's death in this chapter. It says of David that he dies of a good old age, full of days, riches, and honor. And then in Psalm 127, we read a song of ascent of Solomon, and it is a declaration that unless the Lord builds his house, a man's work is futile. And the thing that really stood out to me today as I was reading through all of the things that David does here toward the end of his life, toward the end of his reign, as he's getting ready to hand his kingdom over to the new king, to his son Solomon. These are the things that really stood out to me as I was reading. In chapter 28, starting in verse 2, it says, "Then King David rose to his feet and said, 'Hear me, my brothers and my people. I had it in my heart to build a house of rest for the ark of the covenant of the Lord and for the footstool of our God, and I made preparations for building it. But God said to me, you may not build a house for my name, for you are a man of war and have shed blood.'" And the thing that really stands out to me here at the end of his life, David is doing all of this numbering of people. He's organizing really the infrastructure of the nation of Israel before he hands over the kingdom to Solomon. David was told that he wouldn't be allowed to build the temple for the Lord, that it wouldn't be him, it would be his son that would do it. When the Lord tells David that, he doesn't just give up, he doesn't just take his ball and go home. Instead, you can tell that his heart really is for the Lord in all of the things he does here at the end of his reign. He knows his reign is coming to an end, and he doesn't just hand over all of this unfinished work and all of these hopeful visions and dreams for the temple to his son. Instead, he makes sure that he has done everything possible for this temple to really be built in Solomon's lifetime. He makes sure that the government, the organization of the kingdom is set and in place. I mean, he has numbered all of the Levites. He's given them jobs. He's made sure that they know what their work is going to look like in the temple. He has taken time to make sure that the plans that the Lord has given him to build for the house of the Lord will be able to be accomplished. He's enlisted the help of others. He has enlisted the materials that are going to be needed. He has put everything in place. He doesn't come to the end of his life and go, "Oh, well, I guess I don't get to do this. Here you go, Solomon. Here's a big job for you." But instead, he does everything he can at the end of his life here, at the end of his reign here, to ensure that this temple is going to come into being and that it will be something that's accomplished in the life of Solomon. It just speaks to David's character. It speaks to his heart and his true longing. He had it in his heart to build a house for the Lord, and it wasn't out of selfish ambition. It wasn't out of vain conceit. And we know it wasn't, because when the Lord says, "No, it's not going to be you," he doesn't just give up. He doesn't just throw aside those plans or that dream. He continues to work toward it with everything that he has. Everything in his kingdom is set apart and designated for the Lord that should be. And everything in his kingdom is also set up in a way that the things that are not designated for the temple, those things are also being overseen and cared for, so that when Solomon comes into his throne and it comes into his kingdom, it will be set up in a way that he can go forward in peace, in a way that he can go forward focusing on the building of the temple. And he has enlisted the hearts of the entire nation toward this cause as well. And I mean, if you are looking for a good exit strategy from leaving a job or a position, I think you could look at the life of David and go, oh, that's how we're supposed to leave things when we go. It's just very convicting. How often do we, when we have a job that we've been given and our time has come to an end at that job, that we walk away with it and leave much undone for the next person to come in and take over. And it's just a really convicting picture of what it looks like to be a good steward of what has been placed in our hands for however long that's been given to us, to be good stewards like King David was over the vision, over the dream, over the job, whether it's great or small, that whatever we walk away from, whatever we're handing over to the next generation is beautiful and ready to be picked up and run with, and ready for them to make better and more beautiful. And in some cases, like Solomon, to make the dream become a reality. That's what spoke to me today. It encourages me to do the best I can with whatever God has put in my hand for however long he does. I hope it encourages you as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's reading, so drop a comment on the Bible reading app. May the Lord bless your day. Have a great day, guys.